What is up? What is good? Hope everyone is having a fantastic, I think it is a Wednesday. I hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday today. This is the fourth installment of Food Service Unfiltered. I'm so glad you're all here today. Before we get started, I need to go over a couple things. This podcast is designed to find out what is behind what people do for their jobs, their roles, etc., their stories. We're always looking to find the disruptors, innovators, and leaders within our industry. I'm really excited about our group today. My intention is always, as it always is, to create space and place for people to express to themselves. How are we going to get there? I still have no idea, which is the amazing part. We're going to get there the way it needs to get, the way we need to get there. Couple of industry notes. First, I wanted to call out our friend Lenny here for getting into the Hall of Fame. Lenny's everyone's uncle from Ricka. Lenny, way to go, as well as Lisa Bryant from MD Anderson and Kathleen Held from Cindy Little. Congratulations to you. I'm going to read my notes so I don't miss anything. Looking forward to NAMA early May for us. I think it's May 6th through 8th, and then obviously NRA in Chicago, my hometown. The middle of the month. And as we look forward, ANFP in June, NACUFs in July, and of course, AHF in August. I'll be walking the show for that event and doing some 15-second bits. So love to connect with you. Reach out to me via LinkedIn. And for those who have my cell, reach out to me as well. I will also continue the interviews with my Gen Alpha cameraman. We have some great ideas that we'll be dropping too, so look for that. Before we get to our guest today, I have to share a personal story. I just got back from a 4-day trip to Florida, Naples, Florida, with 8 guys that I've known since grade school. And while, yes, we had shenanigans of guys, fishing, etc., the core of that whole weekend for guys I've known over 30 years is true friendship, showing up for each other, and trusting each other. So it's apropos, it's absolutely appropriate to have the guests that I have today. So systematically, I'm going to bring them on, read their titles, and you'll get a load of this. So here we go. I'm going to start adding you to the stage, fellas. My guest, the Mantastic Four. My first guest, I'm reading this so I don't mess up, fellas. Correct me if I do. Rob Gebhardt is a global workplace experience strategist for JLL. Damian Monticello, Director, Enterprise Hospitality and Event Services for Guidewell, and Rob Gordon, Global Workplace Experience and Hospitality Consultant for Day One Hospitality. Impressive title, boys. Welcome. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
That's a lot of business card.
It's very long. I'm impressed by all of you. So it's fantastic to have you. How are you guys? Let's start off. I told you I'm going to go off script. How you feeling today, Rob Gordon? I'm gonna start with you. How you feeling, man?
Feeling real good. Everything's going well. I got some nice sun here in New York. Just had family in for the weekend, so couldn't be better. All things are going well.
RG3, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, doing well also. I was in the city, New York City, that is, for a couple of days, and looking forward to a away weekend followed by a vacation upcoming. So, yeah, excited for that. And, yeah, doing good.
All right, my friend in Florida, Damian, what do you got, buddy? He just went on mute. And he left us. All right, we're going to pivot. Our friend Damian dropped. It was too much for Damian. This happens in real time when you go live without a net, and that's okay. Guys, I wanted to get right into what we were talking about today, and we talked a little bit about it, and I think it's an important topic for everyone as it relates to leadership. And Rob, I'm going to start with you. To you, what makes a great leader, and then maybe give some anecdotes for something that you've done while you were, let's say, president of SHFN. Rob Gordon.
Oh, I guess from wow, it's an interesting question. I would say from a leadership perspective, it's first and foremost is finding out the skills of your team, right? To help understand what they do and allow them to be themselves and to help be supportive mentorship. you like to see people grow, and the part of a leader is developing others. While certainly, hitting your goals and all of those pieces, it's important to make sure that as a team works together. And I think that for me kind of is one of the corner posts of really kind of leading a group and leading a team, and more importantly, leading a successful team. Everybody has their own specialties that are there, and they're all needed to run projects, to run departments, run organizations. And it's just allowing people to do what they do and learning from each other.
That's fantastic, RG. RG3, Rob Gebhardt, how about you? What say you?
Yeah, I think similar theme, maybe some different words, right? Empowering, right? Empowering the team around you to do the work that they're able to do. Also being an advocate. I do a lot of advocacy work on my side to make sure that I put my team in the best place possible and get them the recognition and the opportunities that they all deserve. And the same was true during my run with SHFM, right? In a leadership role there, it's surrounding yourself with great talent, right? We're often better when we have smarter people than we in the room, and I think that turnaround servant leadership that we all talk about so often is critical to that as well. And if you're Damian, the way to lead is just produce 2 pictures of yourself.
Hey, my apologies, guys. I'm having serious internet issues today, so I'm not sure what's going on here. I'll try to contribute as much as I can.
Damian, it's a safe place. You come as you are. You know that. This is a judge-free zone. We're glad you're with us. What I asked the guys, really, what is leadership to you, and what makes a leader for you? Did you hear me, bud?
Lost you guys again. My apologies.
Okay. No, it's quite all right. We lost him again. Hey, this is what we do when you go live. This is what happens. Hey, Rob, I'm just going to pivot to you. Both of you are past presidents at SHFM. Rob Gordon, I'd like to start with you because there's also a transition of president to president. We were talking about leadership. I'm going to give you a big question. What was your experience as president? And for the folks watching, when was the time frame that you were president for us at SHFM?
Okay. So I became president after the Palm Springs conference in 2019. And things were fantastic. We hit records. I think our largest West Coast national conference ever. We came back. We had started New York. We created the Young Professionals Summit. Based at it, we started in New York, trying to have a bridge between national conference and critical issues, which was coming up. And somewhere in between that, after the Young Professionals Conference, COVID happened. So in March, basically, I don't have to tell everybody here, but the world kind of turned upside down. And my term as president was a much different term, I think, than most. It was more of a comforting and a nurturing. I think there was a time to. People were very nervous about jobs beyond, the fact that certainly their health and their family's health. And in the early stages, people weren't even able to see people. So some of these events and, these Zoom events took off, and, we started having different types of events. I think we even started making mixtapes at some point and started sending things around. So, the focus was much different than other presidents. And, I always say to people, and we've talked about it, the three of us, certainly not what I would have designed for my time as president, but I wouldn't never give it back, because the leadership lessons that I've learned and the things that I took away from that, I don't think that, there would ever been an expedited learning lesson like that. So, and listen, we turned out to, we did the best with what we could. We really kept people together. We kept people whole. So things went really well. And then, then we were able to move along to our next man, to Damian. But yeah, that was, I could certainly go in depth, but that's the high level of the year.
Well, RG, I will say you were and still are. We lost Damian again. That's fine. We're gonna keep welcoming. We're gonna let him in anytime he wants to get back with us. I will say you, Rob, during the COVID years, you were certainly the best person for the job. Not that Gebhardt and Damian didn't have those skill set, but to your point, that calming influence, it was unique time, and you were the best guy to lead us through that, and you set up the other guys for success.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was,
Yeah, I was actually gonna say the exact same thing. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better leader to be in that position at that time, to lead the association, really to be an advocate within the industry for what was going on, a big voice, and just kind of keep us all grounded, right? Because there was a lot happening, and and Rob did a fabulous job. And as you said, we got back to it pretty quick too. After that, I mean, we didn't really lose. We didn't lose traction. I think there was a lot of great initiatives, Rob, that you brought forward to keep membership engaged and really almost extend an olive branch to individuals who were impacted in so many different ways. And that just fostered this engaged mentality that's always been part of SHFM, right? It's permeated our group so much. But for me, I mean, and so I came in, Damian obviously was in between the two of us, but I came in 2021, really with the wheels rolling again, right? We were getting back at it, right? And we had a great conference in Denver during my year. We actually embarked on a couple of big initiatives to rebrand, right, SHFM with a new logo, and we created a new website. So there were some visual things that were very important, I think, at that time as well. And for all of us, what's interesting is, this is a 1-year opportunity, and 1 year goes by very quickly, because really it ends up being about 11 months in total, depending on when each conference falls. And so you don't really have a lot of time. And so you have to rely on the leadership before you and the leadership that's coming after you to make a real impact, right? And I think we've all been very successful at doing that. And through that, I've also created some dynamic friendships, right? And relationships that have just been continuing to build.
And Rob, Rob Gebhardt, I'm just going to go to you. We'll bounce back to Rob. Did you think about legacy when you were in the throes of the presidency, or were you retrospective after? Did you ever give yourself that time to actually go, okay, this is going great, or talk about that to us?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always reflect, at a certain point, like, that I didn't expect it to turn in that direction, or I wish we had done something a little bit differently. And I think that happened throughout the presidency. In terms of a legacy, I mean, I didn't, and I would say probably Rob feels the same way. I didn't take this role on to create some kind of legacy and, kind of put a stamp on something that was just for me. This always has been much bigger than me. And I would say that even in my professional career, it's the same way. I mean, a legacy for me is just knowing that I left those who are coming after me in a better place. Whether or not my name is associated with anything that I've been part of isn't what I'm going after, right? But to know that I had some level of involvement in some programming or in someone's life, professionally or personally, that legacy is really what will end up sticking with me much longer.
Yeah, great, Rob. Fantastic. Rob Gordon, how about you? Same question.
So, I think, and not just because of my timing, I think just in general, there's so much going on that you're so in the thick of it. You don't think about legacy, right? It's just there's so much going on, that servant leadership mindset of trying to see about the whole flock and what you're doing. But I do think that there's a big piece of it, right? And as to look back on legacy and to learn, and it's one of the conversations I have when new incoming presidents want to talk to past presidents and have that. My comment is think about what your legacy is. Think about what you want your legacy to be, because it's important. As you Rob said it best, right? You have a year to do this, and the job is probably a 2-year job. But if it was a 2-year job, I don't think anybody would take it. So by the time you get kind of your initiatives going, you're looking already in the rearview mirror at the back at more road behind you than in front of you. So it's kind of interesting as you want to do it. So if you can leave a legacy and you want to try and do that, and it could be related to different pieces of what you do. It could be event related. It could be some of the messaging that you're creating, websites, all of those kinds of things, rebranding SHFM, whatever you're looking to do. But a lot of that just comes out of being a leader and then listening to people, right? You develop, you hear what people want, and then you develop what it is. It's kind of like the work, right? And like Rob and I do, like the work experience, right? What does the end user want? And let's figure out how to give it to them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I will say, because you guys both won't say it, I'll say it because we're friends and it's true. You guys are servant leaders, and there's a reason people are drawn to you. I love that bottle, by the way, Rob Gordon. People are drawn to you, and because of that, it's about the greater good. It's about the long game, et cetera, and really bringing people along for the ride. I'd love to stick with your presidencies too. Are there any regrets or kind of an aha moment, like, gosh, I wish I would have done this and didn't do it? And I know that's a pretty pointed question because that's admitting something, but Rob, I'm still going to pitch it to you to see if you had any regrets or something you would have done different or along those lines.
Which one? Him or me?
Gordon.
Oh. Let's see. My regret, March 13th, 2020.
Yep.
It's interesting. I think everybody could look on my year as there's tons of people could think about regrets, but I think there's always things you could have done better. You look back on things. One of the things that I look back on that we'd started, and I kind of wish took a little bit more on, was we had started having a lot of conversations with some of the lobbying groups, because we found that at that time there was really nothing going on for our industry and for our people. I mean, we were certainly big and powerful organizations, but so we started talking to NAMA and some of those groups that really work with that type of work, to try and see if there was any support that we could go or join in and be part of a larger organization. So I would say that's probably the one that I feel like I left on the table a little bit.
Yep.
But listen, hopefully you never have to go down that road. But those are, other than that, I mean, look, it was, every day was a new obstacle. Getting calls and figuring out what the next steps were. So just a good challenge. But I think that's really the only thing I would say. I mean, I was very lucky to have a lot of good people around me, so that was a good part of it.
Yep. And Rob Gebhardt, how about you? Same question.
Yeah, I think very similar. We have, and probably many aren't aware, but we do have a strategic plan that generally runs about 3 years, right? And so it's designed that way to be able to span the different presidencies. And there were a few things that were part of that I had hoped would have gotten further along, right? And so as the leader, you feel like perhaps you didn't do quite as much as you could have. And one of those areas was around the engagement with our college students, right? Our schools and universities, and obviously, you've been part of that because of the foundation, right? And the role that the foundation has played in there. But it was something that I was very passionate about, and we were having conversations. We just weren't making the inroads that we needed to. But right, fast forward, here we are now, 2 and a half post presidency for me, and look at how many more schools that we've got. So maybe it was the seed that was planted, but personally, I just was hopeful that we would have moved a little bit further and faster during my time.
Yep. And guys, that's a great point. And the reason I asked that is, and I knew your answers would be the way they were, is true leaders are ones that can maybe like actually verbalizing that they wish they could have done something different. You're being transparent, you're being open, etc. So kudos to both of you for actually bringing that up. To me, that's a true sign of a leader, saying, "Yep, I'm not perfect. I'm doing my best. Let's work as a team." So kudos to you. I'm going to just stick on the leadership thing because it interests me in your answers. And Gebhardt, I'm going to start with you. It's really kind of a two-part one. Are people born a leader, or do they learn to be a leader? And how much does mentorship play into that?
Yeah, really good question. I think for me, I do believe that there are many who are they're born leaders. They just have that drive, that passion, that innate ability to kind of lead. But it doesn't always mean that they're good and effective leaders, right? There's a lot of leaders, and we can look around the world in many places, and depending on your leadership style. I mean, there are leaders who are dictators, right? Who wouldn't necessarily be seen as someone who has a big following, and then there are others, like when we're talking about servant leadership, just people naturally gravitate to. So I think that many have that in them, whether or not it is something that is extracted or fostered or evolves is I guess part of that evolution. But I also think that with the right mentorship and with the right network around you, you can be kind of pulled into that leadership space and excel in your own way, right? And I think that's also what's unique about leadership is that there are different styles. There are different styles that are effective. Sometimes your leadership style changes too. I can tell you that I'm a much different person, at now 54 years old than I was at 44 or 34. And, put in the position that I'm in, now, if I was there 20 years ago, I don't know that I would have been as effective, right? Or had the same success. And again, the success isn't me solely. It's I recognize the talent around me. I'm able to kind of help them grow. I was just at an event actually last night. One of our divisional presidents was retiring, and one of the accolades that was given to him was the fact that he has moved. There were like 8 people. There are 8 people within our organization right now who are all in very, very significant leadership roles, and they all came through his toolology, right? Like he taught them, he showed them, he helped them, he advocated for them. Like that's a great leader, right? You can look at all of the other things that he accomplished. Terrific. That's a fantastic leader. So, can you teach? Yeah, you can, but I think you also have to have that desire and quality in you in some way.
That almost reminds me of the Andy Reid coaching tree. When you're leaving that type of legacy, you're bringing forward 8 leaders who are just gap filling the spot and helping your organization out. That's Gebhardt. You bring up a really great point. That's where I believe legacy and mentorship and being that servant leader that you are can not only help you personally, but you help your organization by that mindset going in. Gordon, same question for you, and I can reread it because it's been a minute if you want.
Yeah. I mean, look, basically, are you born with it, or can you develop it? That's. Yep. So, look, I agree. I think there are people that are born with it. I mean, you see some people that are out there and running around sidelines and coaching that you can see that, that just didn't happen overnight. But I do agree that people can, you can develop into leadership. It's developing confidence. And, for me, the thing I see most is experience, and I think that's where Rob talked about his 44-year-old self versus 54-year self, that, the more experience you have, the better leader part of this is, and I tell this to people, when you're early in your career, you're getting asked a lot of questions on interviews about, what would you do if, right? You start maturing through your career, the questions change. What have you done in this situation, right? So now all of a sudden those experiences become part of that. And that's what partly, and look, it can help develop leaders, and it also can help develop the people that are just, operators and followers too. There's some different mindsets, and, going either direction is certainly okay, depending on where you want to be. But that leadership moment will be learned through experiences. Do you want to lead during those experiences, or do you want to be a follower? And again, I think that's where people kind of hit that cross in the road. But, I'm a big believer in experience, drives a lot of, where you're going in life, the good, the bad, and then the ugly.
Yeah. Once you rip your pants in front of, 500 people at a presentation, for example, you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Okay. Mental note taken. Next time I come to that, fork in the road, I'm going to go this way versus the other.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. And, I'm going to ask you one more question around leadership, and then we can jump to some of the other topics. And Gebhardt, I'm going to start with you as it relates to your own personal mentors that you've had in your career. I know you've talked about legacy. Is there a person or two that's just been instrumental for you during your career, supporting you, that you want to give a shout out to, frankly?
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I didn't know I was going to get that chance, and I've done it before, but happy to take the opportunity to do it again. I mean, Bob Walcombe, who I think both of you know and many in our industry know, was a huge part of my career growth and really why I'm in a role that I'm in today and have had the opportunities that I've had today. And in fact, during my presidency, I felt it was so important to recognize and bring that mentorship concept to kind of center stage, so to speak, that we created. SHFM has created the Mentorship Award, and Bob was the first recipient of that, right? But again, someone who was just a very genuine and open leader, someone who was willing to kind of pull the curtain back and again share the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is what to expect. This is what you should do here, or maybe some ways to respond. Hey, let me introduce you to this person. Let me introduce you to that person. Or going as far as to say, you know what? Sure, I could go provide this presentation or do this pitch or talk to leadership, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that, right? You go and have this conversation, right? So opening that door is something that he did for me often. And I was fortunate to work alongside of him for, almost 9 years in total. And, still to this day, we text and call not as regularly as certainly both of us would like, but, I think that's also a mentor's, while not working together anymore, I know that he's always in my corner. And, if I have a question, I can call him without hesitation, right? I can text him or whatever. And so, so he is one of several, but certainly I think the one I would call attention to and give a little shout out to during this discussion.
I love it, RG3. And the backstory for you, which I know well, is you started out as a sous chef back of house. So like you were a chef before you're in the position you are now with JLL. And the reason I bring that up, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And mentors along the way can absolutely help you get to where you may not even know you should go or you need to go. And having a guy like Bob along the way it's paramount to open up doors or your eyes, etc. So, yeah, Bob's one of the great ones for sure. Mr. Gordon, how about you? As far as a mentor, a key person, you'd give a call out to.
Well, I'd say that I'm lucky to have a lot of people around me that have been helpful and supportive. Like certainly, my family has been gone out of their way for a lot of my career and just the travel and some of the stuff that we've done. But I would say from a work perspective, certainly, Suzanne Heidelberger really gave me an opportunity at American Express to explore. She gave me the opportunity to really, deliver and drive programs. I always say it was autonomy with guardrails. And I think that was kind of one of the best ways. And then we were, very successful in that. So I really do appreciate that, or giving me the opportunity. And then being supportive through the whole process. So there's something that I would say that was a big piece of that. I kind of look back and we all say, look, Rick Post is from a partnership perspective. I mean, some of the things that, what you do in the client roles can't be done without your partner operators, right? And having partners like Rick being there, supporting and all of that is something that's, special. And then listen, it makes or breaks any client, to having that partnership. So I do value that as well. And then it's funny, there's a group that similar to Rob. We have an old text group that with some of the gang, some old past presidents, Barb Kane, Dick Hines, Mike Johnson, Rob Guile, Russ Benson, Shane Varnum, Tony Kazuba, just, having a group like that you can just, bounce stuff and certainly a lot more stupid stuff than important stuff. But, it's a group of people that I value their opinions, their thoughts. So I'm very lucky. And then of course the Fantastic Four, some days, couldn't be able to figure it out without you guys. So, those are my group. I know it's a little bit long-winded, but there's a lot of you out there that I need to thank.
Rob, long-winded is absolutely fine. And you actually had a perfect segue. You did a John Stockton setup for the alley-oop to Karl Malone.
Finger roll.
Let's talk about friendship. That's really a great segue. Rob Gordon, talk about the Fantastic Four. What is it, and why is it important to you? And I can certainly add context too, but you start.
Please, you need to.
Yeah. You might have to clean it up, but yeah. No, it's obviously if this gets edited, we'll be fine. If not, you're okay. But yes, it's the four of us ourselves, and it's a shame that Damian's not on here. But it's a group that we've had for gotta be a couple 3 years now, maybe even more. But as a group, like we'll throw songs out there and just kind of get everybody's day going. want to ask questions. It's really an open forum, and it just starts off as very light, and it could be down to some very heavy and important stuff. But it's people that I value their opinion and their experiences, and it's kind of interesting. We always kind of joke, but it was myself to Damian to Rob, so it's kind of the succession. So when you start talking about friendships, and anybody who's been in the roles and certainly knows that as you start off as treasurer on the phone calls, then you move to president-elect, to president, to immediate, but you'll spend 4 years with the better part of 3 core people. Mm-hmm. So, myself, Damian, Rob, we were probably on calls for probably 2 years, and then you had another year with Damian, Rob. So, it's something.
Yeah.
That's great, Rob Gordon. Rob Gebhardt, how about you? What is a Mantastic for? What is it for you?
Yeah, it's friendship, it's motivation, it's levity, right? It's laughter, but it's also a group that I know that I can throw out, just something that's on my heart, right? That's weighing heavy on me. I just want you to know I'm going through, whatever it might be, right? And we've all done that personally, with our families, or even with work. Hey, this is I'm having a down day, right? And I know you guys are all here, and I'm just putting a note out there for prayer or good vibes or thoughts or whatever, right? And again, it's just that uplifting kind of community. This is a small community that's been created. And Rob, your point about you don't realize it, right? During your time on the board and during your time as presidency or leading the foundation, right? How much time you're giving and how much time you're spending with this small group. And before you know it, you're out of the month, you're out 2 months, and you're like, I haven't talked to those guys. Something's off. This doesn't feel right. So the name has changed a little bit, which is also fun. I like that. I'm glad we've landed on the Mantastic 4. I love that. My kid's gonna chuckle out of it every time a text pops up on my phone. Who is this? I'm like, but it's just a great kind of just a great additional network. I mean, it's not really a network; it's really a friendship. But it's just that group that I can trust and share anything with.
Rob Gebhardt, you bring up a good point that maybe men of our ilk and age group weren't necessarily hardwired as children to have that, like to have the meaningful male relationships where, yes, we can crack a beer, crack a joke, but to your point, if something's heavy on my heart or something's heavy on my head and I need support, like I wouldn't bat an eye to reach out to the 3 of you, because I know you guys will put down what you're doing and we'll talk it through, whether it's a prayer, it's support, you name it. And I think, my God, that's paramount.
Indeed.
Good stuff, boys. Let's talk about the music when it comes to Mantastic 4, and we're going to bounce around a little bit. So, Rob Gebhardt, just tell the viewers part of how music is mixed into our dynamic and why that is important too.
Yeah, so what will happen often on a early Monday morning, someone in this group will just drop a Spotify song or maybe even a musical concept into the chat, and then it's like an avalanche, right? It's a pile-on. Everybody's dropping in a song. It might be a theme. We might have some kind of a pattern that we're following. It might be a genre. It might be an artist. And what I love about it is, one, it has shown me the musical diversity that is part of our upbringing and our style. It's introduced me to some artists that maybe I'd heard of but never really spent the time to listen to. It's also kind of like connected the dots, and kind of like, I think each of us have these little styles. And honestly, I wish Damian was on, because I actually wrote a note down here about like his style. And so I'll just say it, even though he's not here. I mean, I think that if Jerry Garcia walked onto a stage wearing Gene Simmons makeup from Kiss and started to play a 40-minute ramble of something like Psycho Circus or something, Damian would have thought he died and went to heaven, right? So that's the blend of him, right? Did I nail it or what?
You nailed it, dude.
Yeah.
That is,
Yeah.
that's why I'm laughing my rear end off. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, you nailed it.
Well, and you, my friend, are a little bit of like Sid Vicious and maybe like Prince blended together. A little bit of punk, like real retro punk, right? And I don't even know if Sid died in '79. Were you even alive then? I know you're the
I
younger.
was, I was, yes.
Just like that, you were a wee little thing in diapers.
Ish. You know,
Yes.
I was a
Yeah.
late bloomer anyway, so yeah,
But
diapers
but
could have
that
gone to
but
fifth
you
grade.
yeah, you bring that like that different perspective into it. And again, some of the music, I'm just like, how did I miss that? Like, how did I like grow up listening to all this other stuff and I missed this, right? And Rob, you've done the same thing for me with jazz and some R&B and a little bit of that. But then you'll go and drop a country tune or some kind of like rap song, like. I mean, that's the New Yorker in you. I get it, but I like this is what I love. This is what I love. And so that's Monday, and then it goes into Tuesday, and then you get to Friday, and it's like, let's just leave you with one last thought. Here's a weekend song for and so that's our week. That's our week.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I'll usually start cooking dinner on Friday, and I'm like, okay, I'm seeing what the boys are up to. I'm gonna drop some B-side song that nobody's ever heard of with good beats, and off we go. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rob Gordon, how about you as it relates to the music and the dynamic and our language around that?
Listen, I think Rob said it best. He really captured it. The one thing I would say is that it really, I think, shows the expression of each person and how on a single topic or on a single thought, the different expressions all kind of come together and really. And it's interesting because I think that's what you were saying, Rob. That it's just cohesion that all of a sudden everybody you come up with something, but it's everybody's different perspective on how it comes together. And there's a lot of learning that goes on, and it's it seems as simple as music, but I think it's kind of just more about how our conversations morph and how all of that kind of starts and moves and continues to move the needle. And it starts as something as simple as hey, here's a great song. What do you think about this? Could be something we just found or something that just showed up on our daily mix. Hey, whatever. Or it could be something that I learned. I mean, there's been stuff that I've taken. You hit that little like button, all of a sudden, you'd be surprised. I feel like I've got like a whole David mix going on.
Yes,
I think you made and Rob Gordon. People ask before you were president, like, how did you meet Rob Gordon? I'm like, well, it started out as we were making like mixtapes for each other, pretty much. Like before I even I worked at Amex, big deal. It is a big deal, but you know what I'm saying? It was like, the guy likes music. I want to make music for the guy, and that's how the friendship started. Yeah, I will say with you, Gordon, there's always going to be horns somewhere involved, a little New Orleans jazz kind of undertone, which is always fun.
Keep it funky.
That's it.
Keep it funky.
It.
Yeah.
And Rob Gebhardt, you have this New Jersey sensibility of like you got a working man's music taste, which I absolutely love. I'm like, like it's Bruce for me. Like that's like Bruce Springsteen and groups like that. You always bring that levity and kind of level set for us. So it's super awesome.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Damien did text, so I am going to read this.
Oh, he did? What did he say?
He said the Fantastic Four is so great because you all allow me to be quirky, fashion sense, and all of that. There are many days that the three of you make my day worthwhile. And he said, spot on 3. Yeah. And he brings up a good point, and Rob Gordon brought it up too. It's constantly morphing, it's constantly changing, but we're all bringing parts of ourselves. Which, my gosh, guys, I value that, beyond words. We jumped ahead, so I'm going to just jump ahead. Any questions for me? I'll pause. You guys have any questions for me? I've been asking you all the questions.
I'll throw one out there.
Go ahead. Go, Rob.
So you do these things 3 other times, and so you're building up speed. This we're in the cleanup spot, which I appreciate. So we're in good shape. But tell us a little bit about how you think it's going and what you've taken away from these conversations. You've had some great ones so far. In here, I mean, you could keep the names pretty simple. So it wasn't after Damian dropped out, it was easy to remember our names. So
it was serendipitous that although we miss him, it was serendipitous.
Yeah,
He
it's not
dropped
the
out.
same.
It's not the same. What I've learned out, and Lenny, it's funny that I showed Lenny's picture today, a Hall of Fame from Ricca. He said, David, he told me a while ago, he goes, I can find out what you sell, what you do online. I can do that. I can just go to your website. Getting time with you, I get to see who you are, what you're about, what motivates you. So what I've absolutely enjoyed about Unfiltered is finding people's stories, what makes them tick, what motivates them. And I'm always pulling stuff away. I would say I'm a lifelong learner, although I don't like to read too much. I like to listen. But like I pull so much from people. And I mentioned it on podcasts too. I came to my company, just said, hey, I want to do this podcast. And they said, go for it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they said yes. So I love it. I want to continue to do it. And it's to your point that Rob Gebhardt and Gordon said, it's not even about me. It's I want to tell these stories of people that are super interesting, that have stories that need to be told, and continue to do that throughout. Because I think ultimately that makes everyone better.
Great.
I was going to ask a similar question. I was really curious about the concept, right? How this came to be, and a little bit of what you were hoping to get out of it, but you kind of answered all of that already. So, yeah, it's just, listen, I'm honored to be part of it. As you said, Rob, we're kind of playing the cleanup role here, coming in fourth, which is good because we got the kinks worked out, and now we're going to set you up for more success.
That's right. You guys are like, yeah, we're bringing Aaron Judge, or if you're a Mets fan, Juan Soto. I'm a Cub fan, so like the World Series going through Chicago this year. By the way, anyone listening, it's going through the north side of Chicago. But yeah,
not unless you get some of those bowling ball shaped bats.
That's true.
Or bowling
That's
pin,
true.
I should say. Bowling pin shaped bats. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're looking at about like 20 minutes left. Just going to make a pivot to our industry. Just going to ask you a question, and Rob Gebhardt, I'll start with you. Is there any one person or even a trend that you're watching in the industry? So it could be somebody you're like, hey, I like the work they're doing in our industry, or a trend that maybe you personally or your company is like, we're kind of following that. We think that's important.
Yeah, well, obviously there's been a big shift within the workplace, and specifically with the clients that we're supporting in terms of how they view real estate, right? And so while we're talking, a little bit more about hospitality specifically, the real estate organization, right, have really been disrupted and are really kind of resetting themselves. And so as part of that reset, it's also about how do we reactivate our space and bring people back in and make the space meaningful, right? Make it valuable, right? That earn the commute tagline has been used often, maybe too often at this point. But what does that really look like, and how do we continue to innovate for our clients? And so internally, yeah, I mean, I am fortunate to work for a large global organization, about 115,000 strong at this point, with really, really, really deep research roots, right? So we go in deep and look at a lot of different things. And so individuals like Peter Miskovich, who is a workplace futurist for us, what he's reporting on, what he's looking at, what he's working on, a follower. Certainly, I'm a follower of that. James Cook, who I introduced, many of you to during my time as president, because he came and was a panelist or a moderator for one of our panels, does a lot of research around the retail side of our business and what does that look like in high street or in shopping centers or in other places. And again, we're seeing that merger of CRE and traditional real estate coming together with a lot of these new build out and designs, especially in places like New York. So those would be two internal leaders that I watch and follow and listen to often. Within the hospitality space, obviously, Will Guidara is one that I think comes to mind for many of us. I'm loving his posts on LinkedIn and his little newsletters and like just those little inspirational concepts or moments or reminders of why we do what we do and what we can do and the impact. I think that's the impact we can all have. And then somebody else that we've been working with on a few opportunities is another author by the name of Taylor Scott, who has a new book out. He was the author of Lead with Hospitality, and he's got another book coming out. So it's that type of mindset. It's really about the mindset. I want to align myself and follow people who are thinking like I am, or that I want to think like, because of the work that they're doing in the industry.
That's a full circle comment too, Rob, about leadership. It's you're always learning, and you can be a leader and follow too. I think you bring up a
100%.
really great point, and always be looking for what is next and what's interesting and what can make it better. I love that, Rob. Rob Gordon, how about you? Anybody you're following? Any trends? Anything that's like really interesting for you in the industry right now?
So it's interesting, right? I see this a lot, and I almost feel like there's become a cottage industry of people just doing research on workplace experience and seeding and all of that. That's become an industry of its own. For me, I think what I'm most interested in really going forward is, and maybe this is now the consultant piece of me, right? Is that helping, seeing how people develop culture and understanding their cultures in organizations. We see a lot of times how we discuss with people, oh, what should a subsidy be? What is the return to office going to look like? What do we want to have? That's not a blanket answer that covers everybody. That's something that's based on the culture of what you're trying to achieve. And I really think that as what we're trying to do is help companies decide, or if companies haven't decided, our role is to go in. And I think that's what what Rob and his group does really well is help people go in and decide what does your look want to be. We can help you get there, but it has to be based on a culture of an organization. So I'm continuing to watch that grow. I mean, New York City is an interesting area. There's a big push to get people back in the office, for many reasons about getting them in, and the city's making a big push, right? I mean, the retail, the mass transit, all of these things are built around these large cities to support people being in offices. They built this huge infrastructure to make a whole new train line going into Grand Central. They started it 20 years ago. They finished it right when nobody wanted to go anywhere else in the city. So, New York City budget, and we'll leave that alone. But anyhow, but you talk about how things are. You've built infrastructure. You've built retail establishments, rents. And that's one of the things that you're seeing is. So my point is, what are people doing, and what's going on at Vivero may or may not be going on at another organization. And by the way, all of that's fine, but develop what you want. That's how you could develop amenity programs. That's how you develop where you want your subsidy. Do you want your subsidy to be on speed of service because you need to get people back to their desks or their work, or do you want to do it on cost because you want to keep people in-house so they're not running outside? There's a bunch of different ways. So it's not just a single piece. So for me, that's kind of what I really look at, is how companies deciding how their culture leads into their amenities and all of those kinds of programs. Listen, I think as we see, there's a lot of free issue out there. There's a lot of people that are giving away great stuff in pantries. This all comes with a cost, right? So, is there going to be a day that all of a sudden this says, hey, you know what? I don't want to spend it? Or is there going to be a continued movement going forward, right? So, I think that's also based on the culture, how companies do, all of that kind of stuff. So for me, that's where my focus is, and I'm looking at it in those ways. I read a lot of the same similar stuff. I see a bunch of people putting out some different items. Sometimes I just find out for everybody's got one side, then somebody will explain something on the other. The more you read, the more you're gonna get confused. For me, but really, I think that's the big piece. I really am interested to see where the industry grows. Our industry, hospitality, the food and beverage contractors had a great couple of years. Very happy to see. Let's make sure that hopefully these are sustainable moments and that the whole industry grows. Right? We all do better when the industry grows.
Absolutely. It's interesting too, hearing both of you that, the soft skill or soft approach of culture is still very much paramount into the success of organization who you're working with, your clients too, outside of the brick and mortar. And, is the boiler working for people in the office? It's, do they feel safe, seen, heard at work too, as well? And thinking in those terms as you're planning out. I think that's really interesting. Damian did text. He texted me, so I'm not looking at I'm listening, but Damian texts. What he's excited about is the use of AI in so many aspects of hospitality, in menu design, customer interaction, scheduling, inventory management, and of course, sustainability. So those are big topics for Damian that he thinks are important. I'm not familiar with that AI. Is that a trend? I'm kidding, guys. I know
A1.
that's A1. See, I
It was.
always thought it was steak sauce, so that's why I missed the boat. That's why I ended up at a state school. Gosh darn it. All right. Well, we got about 10 minutes, guys. This is actually my favorite part of the whole podcast. Gonna have 7 questions for you, and you both can talk amongst yourselves. If you get all 7 questions correct,
Oh, it's a test.
isn't life a test, Rob Gebhardt? It's
Yeah, it is.
Nobody said there'd be tests.
I know. I didn't sign up for this.
I have a second screen, Rob. I got Google open. Let's do it.
I like your chances. Let me just say that.
Okay.
If you get all 7 questions correct, there will be a prize for you, a gift of sorts. So, before we get started, is it correct you have not seen the questions I'm going to ask you? You have no idea what I'm about to ask you.
No.
Okay,
No.
that's fair.
On my Boy Scout.
You guys already talked about it. First question, and I'll just as flow, we'll go to Gordon to Gebhardt on these questions.
Okay.
Most memorable memory at SHFM as president. Just one memory. That is the first question.
First best memory. I would probably say for me, it was getting the gavel in Palm Springs and giving the speech and thanking all of the people that have helped me get to that spot.
That's perfect. Rob Gebhardt, what say you?
Yeah, for me, I think it's last year's conference and the surprise that the committee pulled on Will Guidara, right? To have his dad show up unknown to him, to be able to provide that unreasonable hospitality to somebody who was committed their whole life to doing it for others. I was just blown away.
Love it. Those are perfect. You're trending upward. I won't say if you got it right or wrong, but I like your chances. Rob Gordon, describe yourself in 3 words.
Handsome, tall. Oh, my mistake. My mistake.
Wow.
And cocky.
There you go. Face for radio. Right. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say athletics since you told me I was going to be the center on the basketball team.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm going to keep servant leader, and that'll be where I stay.
Perfect. Rob Gebhardt, how about you? 3 words to describe you.
3 words. Outgoing. I don't know. Motivated. What else am I? Wow. Confused right now? Unsure?
Love it. I love it. Yes, absolutely. Again, I'm not going to tell you if you got it right or wrong, but I like your chances. You're trending correctly. Out of the 4 of us, I'll start with you, Rob Gordon. Who has the best taste in music, would you say?
Interesting. I can't say best. I'll just say most aligned with myself, probably. Yep. I think I'm going to go with Damian. I mean, because he's all over him. So, but I mean, I think I got a bunch of Damian. I relate to. He gets it going.
Okay, that's fair. Rob Gebhardt, what say you?
I'm going to pile on that train as well. I like his style. He's all over the place, but a lot of it matches up with what I like, and I like the fact that he brings some shirts to complement that musical taste.
Okay, I'm keeping score right now. So again, I'm not going to give you the final answer, but you're trending upward.
All right,
you're
good.
motivated.
Keep getting
there. Yep. Morning. Okay, Rob Gordon, morning coffee or evening scotch?
Can I have both?
Yes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
It's both.
It's both. Yeah. Rob Gebhardt, what's it?
I'm going coffee. You all know I'm not a big drinker anymore, so it's a healthy lifestyle that I'm trying to lead.
Look at you eating healthy and vegetables. Apparently, that's a thing now. People are using vegetables in their meals.
Who would have thunk it, right?
I know.
I quit quitting.
That's fair. And we got about 5 minutes. I already touched on one of the topics, so I'm going to have to add one. Rob Gordon, top 3 bands quickly of all time for you. Top 3 bands.
Ooh.
Oh God! I mean, at this point, it's got to be probably the Neville Brothers and the Neville Brothers meters are kind of going to be combined.
Yep.
Big fan of Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings.
Yep.
And at this point, I'm really enjoying a band called Ripe now. That's
Ripe.
It's a new band. Yeah, really good. Them and Jane and the Causeways are the latest on my hit list.
Okay,
Wow.
fantastic.
Okay.
Rob Gebhardt, what say you, buddy?
Yeah, well, I always go back to my my early days as a youngster, listening to a lot of Floyd and Zeppelin. I mean, I can't go wrong, and I can't kind of go a week without a tune or two from both of them. Definitely have moved into a little bit of a country genre recently, and Chris Stapleton and Jelly Roll. A lot of time listening to some tunes from them as well. Actually, going to go see Chris Stapleton next month, so looking forward to that.
Fantastic. Respect. I will say The Clash, REM, U2, Elvis Costello. See, I'm doing 4 because
I got to throw a late respect out to Michael Franti.
Oh,
Franti is near and dear to me. Apologies.
you do have that like positive like island vibe, yes music sound vibe about you, Rob. So I think it's fantastic.
I appreciate you keeping that clean. Thank you.
Yeah, it took everything I could. I know HR is probably listening, so yeah, I'll get right up to the line. I won't step my toe over it for sure. Lastly, and this is only 6 questions, but that's what we could do on our own podcast, guys. Will you be coming to our rooftop party at NRA on the Monday? Will you be coming? Rob Gordon.
Not sure if I'm making the trip to NRA this year. Got a lot going on, families with kids graduating college and all, but up and down. If I'm in NRA, I will be at the party.
Fantastic. Rob Gebhardt, how about you, bud?
I will be there. I'm not coming to NRA, but I will be there Monday in time to join your rooftop celebration.
Fantastic. Virgin Hotel. It's going to be a great event. Roaring 20s theme. I cannot wait. Guys, I'm gonna tabulate our scores to see if you carry the 940. Yep, guys. Yeah, you passed. You guys both got all 6 now questions correct. So great job today, fellas.
Wow. Yeah.
It was touch and go. It was touch and go, and that's why I know you guys being pros that I could throw that curveball to you, and you would adapt accordingly. By the way, Damian, his bands are, before we get going, Widespread Kiss, Stevie Ray Vaughan, respect, and he will be at the rooftop party.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, we just got a couple of minutes left. Couple things, guys. First to Damian, Rob Gordon, Rob Gebhardt. Thank you so much for coming on today, sharing, talking. It's like how we talk when we see each other all the time anyway. So it's like we just get to do it in front of a couple people. I love you guys. I value our friendship, and you guys absolutely make me a better employee for my company, a better person in my community, etc. And thank you for being you guys.
Well, the feeling is mutual, and thank you for having us on.
Yeah, yep. It's a pleasure. And I got to tell you, it's really nice to see you in this role. It's nice to see you, letting your personality shine and helping others get their personalities to shine too. So I think that this is a great opportunity for you, and I think you're really you're knocking out of the park. So congratulations, and best of luck to the people that follow us. Get Damian on for a one-on-one when he fixes his AV.
He has the Atari 3000 he's working out of his office. That's probably why it's not working. But we love you anyway, Damian. Yeah, thank you, Rob. That means the world coming from you. And I will leave you with this quote, and then we'll call it a show, guys. The language of friendship is not words, but meanings. And that's by Henry David Thoreau. And guys, when I think of friendship, it's the meanings, and it's the gift that you continue to give. So thank you, boys. You guys are the best. Thanks for coming on today. And I know I'll see you down the road.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, fellas. We'll see ya.
All right, bye.
Bye.